Dragon Rescue, Chapter 10, Metalmouth. Did he taste as good as a pigeon? Ben pondered this question. Firstly, he didn't know what pigeon tasted like. Maybe like chicken or a Cornish game hen. Both were very delicious. Secondly, he was not about to compare himself to something delicious. So he did what he did best. He made up a story. I taste terrible, Ben said. His hand slipped out of Pearl's grip. As a matter of fact, I'm poisonous because I take all sorts of allergy medications. When I was a baby, I ate paint chips, so I have toxic levels of lead in my bloodstream. And I love junk food, so I'm full of chemicals and preservatives. The dragon smacked his lips. He did not appear convinced. Plus, I live right next door to a nuclear power plant, so I'm radioactive. If you eat me, you'll get sick and die. The dragon hummed, paying no attention to Ben's story. To eat this apprentice or not to eat this apprentice? That is the question. A long pause followed, during which Ben's life flashed before his eyes. But not the life he'd already lived. He saw images of things he'd been looking forward to. He saw himself lighting the menorah for the next Hanukkah and unwrapping 8 days of presents. He saw his bar mitzvah party, where his friends would raise him up in the air during the hora dance. And he saw himself holding his brand new driver's license. None of that would happen if he became Dragon Chow. Ben! Pearl yelled from across the roof. With the dragon distracted, she'd made it to the exit and was holding the door open, motioning for Ben to run. It wasn't as bad as the obstacle course in gym class, except for the fire-breathing dragon and the razor-sharp teeth. He'd simply have to duck beneath the dragon's elbow, dart around his right haunch, leap over his tail, then race straight for the exit. Pearl's ponytail bobbed as she waved frantically. Ben sent all his energy to his feet, preparing to bolt. But the dragon burst into a smile. "Ha-ha, just kidding." Ben froze. "Huh? I'm not going to eat you." The dragon was chuckling and his voice had changed. It no longer sounded terrifying. It sounded like a little kid's voice. "But it scared you good, didn't I? Didn't I scare you good?" He thumped his tail. "That was my big, mean voice." Ben wasn't sure what was going on. Was this a joke? Was the dragon teasing his food before eating? "Don't play with your food," Ben's mother always said. The dragon smirked. "You should have seen the look on your face. Ha ha." Wait a minute. Ben narrowed his eyes. Mr. Tabby had said the dragon was young. The dragon was acting like a kid. "That wasn't funny," Ben murmured, hoping his heart would settle back to normal and Pearl wouldn't see the sweat that had broken out on his forehead. He'd been so scared he almost peed his pants. Pearl sprinted around the dragon, then gazed up at him. She was smiling so wide you could see the gap in her teeth. "I can't believe you can talk." His tail started thumping. "Of course I can talk. Dragons invented language." Ben made a sound. "Invented language?" That sounded like a story for sure. "Yep. Way back in the foggy time. That's when the imaginary world began. At least that's what my dragon book says." He reached between two scales and pulled out a book. Then he opened the book to a page that was dog-eared. "This is me." He turned the book so Ben and Pearl could see. They stepped closer. The page had a drawing of a dragon with the words "Black Western Dragon, vicious and deadly." "It says I'm not very nice." The dragon frowned. "Says I eat peasants, burn villages to the ground, and steal treasure. But I've never done any of those things." He tucked the book back under his scale. "Hey, want to play fetch?" He pulled a tennis ball from between two more scales and dropped it at Ben's feet. His tail thumped. Ben picked up the yellow ball. Was this actually happening? The dragon wanted to play? "He wants you to throw it," Pearl said with a nudge. Oops. Okay, so Ben threw the ball across the roof. The dragon grabbed it right out of the air. "Oh, that was too easy," he complained. "Throw it as far as you can." His tongue hung out of his mouth. "Go on, go on." Using every muscle in his arm, Ben hurled that tennis ball toward outer space. It soared over the north wall, arched over Button Lake, then began its descent. The dragon whizzed into the air. Pearl and Ben peered over the ledge. The dragon's belly skimmed the water as he grabbed the ball. When he landed back on the roof, he dropped the ball at Pearl's feet. Go on," he said, bouncing on his hind paws. Then he stopped bouncing and scratched his head. "Hey, I forgot to ask your names." "My name is Pearl and this is Ben. We're Dr. Wu's new apprentices. What's your name?" Using one of his claws, the dragon picked a fork from between his teeth. "My name's Metalmouth." Ben approved of that name, and he didn't feel scared anymore. This dragon was like an overgrown black Labrador retriever. "So is this where you live?" he asked. "Yep, until Dr. Wu moves again. She's moved 4 times since I was hatched." 4 times? Pearl frowned. "I've never moved. I've always lived above the dollar store. Say, how old are you?" "Dr. Wu says that in human years he counted on his claws, "I'm 10. "Just like us," Pearl said. Metalmouth tossed the fork and the clock hand onto the pile of metal objects. Ben and Pearl looked at each other. "One of us has to tell him to stop stealing," Pearl whispered. "I vote you do it." Ben rolled his eyes. "Gee, thanks." "You're welcome." Ben stuffed his hands into his jean pockets. Metalmouth? Some of the people in town are kind of mad that, well, how come you're taking all that stuff?" "I'll show you." Swoosh! His wings unfurled. "Get behind me so you don't get burned." "Burned?" The dragon opened his mouth. Ben and Pearl darted behind the left wing. While the rest of Metalmouth's body was covered in sharp scales, the wing's skin was smooth and stretched between bones like silk over a kite's frame. As they peeked around the edge, the dragon's chest expanded with a deep breath. Then a flame shot out of his mouth. Metalmouth worked the flame like a painter, brushing every inch of the pile until each object had melted. Then the flame subsided and he tucked his wings. "Ta-da!" "Wow," Ben said. The pile was transformed. What had been a hodgepodge of items was now a perfectly smooth silver nest, gleaming in the morning sun. "How come you used metal?" Pearl asked. "I have a nest collection at home, and those nests are all made of twigs and sticks." "Do I look like a bird?" Metalmouth asked. "Birds make stupid nests. Birds collect, but dragons steal. Birds weave, but dragons solder. Seriously, a dragon's nest is a work of art." Then he yawned. To Ben, the dragon's breath felt like the air inside the country club sauna. "I'm going to sleep now." Metalmouth stepped into the nest. He turned around 3 times like a dog. Then he curled up and wrapped his wings around himself like a blanket. After closing his eyes, puffs of steam began to waft from his nostrils. "Oh, isn't that cute?" Pearl whispered. "He's snoring." Ben didn't think cute was the right word, but it was kind of cool to have watched a dragon make his nest. He looked around. "I guess we're done up here." While he collected the shovel, Pearl grabbed the bucket, and together they tiptoed back to the exit. "That was amazing," he said, after they had entered the stairwell. "We talked to a dragon." "Totally amazing." She closed the roof door. "Do you think he'll stop stealing now that he's built his nest?" Ben was about to say he didn't know, but the wall speaker buzzed. "Mr. Tabby to floor 10, emergency, code red," the nasal voice said. "Floor 10? Pearl's eyes widened. "I wonder what's happening." "Mr. Tabby to floor 10 immediately, Mr. The computerized voice was interrupted by a new voice. Mr. Tabby, where are you?" The voice pleaded. "Who's that?" Ben asked. I don't know, but it sounds like she needs help, Pearl said. Ben gulped. Something bad was happening. But Mr. Tabby is the one to help her. We're not supposed to. There was nothing to be done. Ben knew they weren't supposed to go to the 10th floor. The sign warned them not to go to the 10th floor, but the order came in as clear as a bell. Apprentices to floor 10, the voice shrieked. Now!